Okay, so I did not record this, but basically just put two windows which are the same as these windows. And if you go to the section here, you can see how they're aligned to the top of the floor exactly. And I just did a mirror as well from the center of the grid column. Make sure always that you get you get rid of the underlay. Okay. The lab building is a little, let's call it tricky. So I'm going to just select all the walls from the lab and delete them, unless you have something much more, I guess, creative. But I'm going to start from scratch because it's a totally different wall and a bit more, I guess, unorthodox or uncommon or not used so often out there. It's a little more, not experimental, but a little bit like tricking the system. So we're going to do a wall here in the front of this facade. I'm going to take it up to the top of the parapet. And what we're going to do is a curtain wall, but instead of having glass panels, we're going to create wall panels. So we'll see what that is. You can assign, instead of a glass panel, to have a type of wall inserted as a panel. It's a bit more like tricky, I guess. So again, first floor, I'm going to go to the first floor composite. I'm going to save there. I'm going to create a wall here, and it's going to be a curtain wall. So I'm going to say architecture, not window, wall. I'm going to start with a default curtain wall, but I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to call it not even curtain wall. Let's call it a precast concrete wall. Okay. So this precast concrete, again, as I say, would allow to insert grids and therefore panels in the same way. But there's one point here where we say, instead of a panel, curtain panel, what could I do there? And you can actually place a wall instead. You can say a brick wall instead of a panel. So it's quite powerful. For that, we're going to actually duplicate also a wall first and then place it here. But for now, I'm just going to say here, okay, and draw the wall here. It has to be aligned to the gray line, which is the wall, so we actually need to make this, and I'm not going to care too much about how it's drawn because we're going to have to move it nevertheless afterwards. Okay, I'm going to stop here at the edges. I'm going to escape that. I'm going to delete these green lines, which you should as well. And curtain walls in general have, like this that you see is this, is the curtain wall, the glass panel itself, but the way it's positioned is actually in relation to this line and this point. So if you want to extend it, you have to move that point on. So I'm going to go to the perimeter there. Okay. Again, curtain wall, which I called precast concrete wall, but we actually need to create a wall and duplicate a new concrete wall. So I'm going to say generic 8. I'm going to say edit type, edit. And I'm going to change this material of the structure. Actually, first I should, as you know, duplicate it. Generic 8 is going to be not anymore. It's going to be a precast concrete panel. Okay. Now I'm going to edit. I'm going to change the material to concrete. It's a precast option. Here we go. And 8 inches, but I'm going to add a couple layers to the top. And I'm going to say insert and insert. The first layer is going to be pretty much thermal air. It's like just air between the concrete. And the next layer is going to be the material, also air. Air infiltration barrier, for example. And I'm going to make it like 3 inches. And the other material is going to be a finished material, and I'm going to make it a just gypsum board. So gypsum wall board. I'm going to say okay. It's going to say a couple inches. Should be less. Yeah, probably 1 inch actually. And that will be the finished material to the interior. Okay, I'm going to say okay. and escape. Because I don't want to place that. I want to go to the previous current wall that I duplicated, edit the type, and under current panel, I want to change that panel to be the duplicated wall, which I call Precast here. Well, not that one, it's the one I just did actually. Here it is. Okay, you say okay, and if I go to the 3D, you see what happens. It basically created a normal wall as if it was concrete, but this is actually working as a current wall. No? So the first thing I see is that it's not aligned properly, so I'm just going to go to the plan and move it to the ending of the floor. And also the interior has to be towards the other side, so I'm going to swap or flip. Let's see where this is. Okay, perfect. So here's what happens. Oh, let me select it also and take it up to top of the parapet, no? Be careful not, because you can select the panel here. This is actually the panel. It's one big panel. But if you select the grid line, you see how there's a grid line there, and this is the panel. Grid. If we want to select the entire current wall, we need to select the grid line and say the top constraint should be top of parapet. So it goes further up. Okay. So it's good. So now we could have different panels. We could do the same as if it was a glass panel. We can just say current grid and place grids there individually. As you can see, you can place one. And that's somehow creating different panels. And this will be your precast panel that you can tag. You can actually get the area of each of the panels. So for schedules, it's incredibly much more beneficial than just creating a normal wall. Okay, so I'm going to Ctrl-C that. I'm going to hide this for a second, and I'm going to divide it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This wall, I can say edit the type, go to the current grids, and grid to make it a fixed number. Say OK. And there you go. I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need to select the entire thing and change here the number of times I wanted to subdivide. Vertical 6. Say apply. There you go. And floors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well. So that would be 5. Got it. Now these connections obviously should match somehow the height. Normally they are like 3 feet above. So you could just select the grids independently and unlink them and taking them further up or down. You could go to the front view if you wanted to do that, or the elevation. For example, let me go to the elevation. And these are the grid lines. Again, you can unlink and just move them exactly to the level if that was the purpose. You could create a line 3 feet and then move that grid line in relationship. So again, we kind of have to move the grid lines. So select, unlink, MV for moving and put it in the level. Unlink, move to the level. Unlink, move to the level. There you go. So there you go. You have panels. Again, You could even go to that same elevation and say tag under annotate, tag all, and you could have here, you can load, it's not right now, not here as panels, but you can load the panels quite freely, and you will get a little tag here for each of the panels, and you can extract the area for each of the panels, and those panels could be a bit more weird, I guess, than other ones. And still you can embed windows into this, so you can say architecture windows, you can select any window you want and place it whether inside of the panel or actually in the meeting point of different panels. So that becomes quite a rich kind of a tool to work with precast panels, in this case concrete. Okay, so the last step into that is actually a little bit of a weird thing, is what we have done a couple times. I'm going to tab into this wall, select the grid line in the periphery. That means that I'm selecting the current wall, and you can edit the profile and get funky. Here you get funky. I want to see things that are a little bit different. So I'm going to do, I think last semester I did like straight lines. I'm going to do more, let's see if it works. Polylines or splines. Okay, so obviously if we want to have this cut, it means that we need to have closed polylines entirely done for whatever we want to have as concrete. Okay, you can even change them freely, and oftentimes it's going to give you an error, so you're going to have to come back and edit a little bit. So if we need closed polylines, I'm going to decide that this is concrete and this is concrete as well. Okay, so for that we need to start splitting. Okay, and making sure that we have those enclosed boundaries, because otherwise you won't know what is what. No? Okay, you see how the polyline comes here enclosed. You could have any crazy world you want. Just don't keep it super crazy, just crazy. And as long as you have an enclosed area of lines, let's see if it works. It could give you an error here. I don't know if it's going to happen to me. This you say unjoin, whatever. But it could give an error that one of the panels is not functioning properly. So, you could have one problem because the panel is so small, like this one, that you need to adjust a little bit the line. So what I will do in that case, I will again tap to select the current wall, edit again, and change a little bit those curves until you have, until all the panels come properly set. Okay, so if I go to shaded line here, we only have the concrete at this point. We need to place the current wall in glass, let's call it in the negative space of this. Okay, so for that we're going to do it in the next video.